Much for turning out. It's now 7 o'clock in my time zone, US 2 o'clock. I hope you're all well. Just a quick weather report. It's absolutely pouring down with rain in the UK, so a lovely English spring. Gorgeous. As it says on the first slide, the webinar will be recorded and made available afterwards. And my co-presenter today is Chris Kay from MetaVis, who will be doing the MetaVis demos. So without further ado, let's make a start. So we're looking at Office 365 and how do I administer it, one of those all-time perennial questions. About MetaVis, MetaVis Gold ISV partners. They'd be powerful, easy-to-use solutions, SharePoint migration, information architecture, and more cloud-based as well. So lots of tools around Office 365, which you're going to see tonight, and also obviously migration tools for on-premise to 365, but also 2003 to 2007 and 2010, etc. It's about me. I'm a SharePoint Server MVP. I'm a SharePoint consultant in my day job. Don't hate me for it. 10 years working with SharePoint. I'm a blogger, I write, and a speaker, obviously. If you want to contact me, please feel free to. Twitter, that's my Twitter handle there, and my blog down the bottom. So as I say, please feel free to contact me on any subject, just to pass the day if you wish. The agenda tonight, we're going to be looking at Office 365 content migration and metadata, Office 365 backup and restore, and security and permissions as well using MetaVis. Before we make a start, I've just got a quick poll about Office 365, which I'm going to launch now. So if you wouldn't mind just filling in those questions. Okay, looking good. Ooh. I'm not quite sure whether the attendees can see the results of this, but I'll share them with you in a few seconds. We'll just let it run through. Okay, so basically the yeses of the question was, have you got 365? The yeses, 44%, and a split of no and evaluating now on 28% each. So hopefully we can help everyone. During the poll, just gone up, no 32%. So hopefully during this we can help everybody. So hang on. Well, there we go. So the final poll, well, that was 9% of the people voted. 42% yes, 32% no, 26% evaluating now. So hopefully, as I say, you'll learn something during the course of this evening. And also, any questions you have, please feel free to ask, and we'll answer the questions at the end of the presentation, if that's okay. So thank you very much again. So we'll make a start. Office 365, some things that you can't do, and you can do. So in-place upgrades, no. Database attach, no. PowerShell, maybe, but generally no. Cloud-ready tools that work with Office 365, yes, and you'll be seeing some of those in a moment. It's one of those perennial questions about how do you actually get your content in, and also the administration side of it as well. So how do you get your content in without a third-party tool? You can certainly use WebDAV and just open and drag and drop, but then you're going to lose your metadata, and it's quite limited on what you can do. Or you can certainly use MetaVis as well, so you'll be seeing the migration tool in a little while as well, because the demos are quite early on, so but limited on what you can do. I always use this because I think it's one of the best quotes around Office 365 I've ever seen, which is Office 365 frankly is to Google Apps as Xbox 360 is to Pong. There's an awful lot of debate around, you know, what's best, Google Apps or Office 365. In my opinion, I've been using Office 365 now since the beta. I mean, we're coming up to a year now since it's been launched, but I've been using it since the beta, and I absolutely love it. I think it's easy to stand up. With the tools we're going to show you, it's easy to administer as well. And obviously there are some huge companies using Office 365 now as well. And for the people that are using it, if you do come from a large company, you'll be interested in talking to me about how your company is using it. I'd love that, so please contact me via email, and we can try and get some case studies something together. Would be great to share that information among the SharePoint community. Awesome. SharePoint Online administration, you're quite limited on what you can do. Really, you're just doing the tenant administration. All the rest of it really is handled by Microsoft. It's obviously built in a multi-tenant environment. There are an awful lot of customers going on Office 365. I'm pretty sure, I was talking to a guy at the London conference last week, one of the guys that run Office 365 from Microsoft, and he was saying, I can't remember if the number was 1,500 new tenants a week, but I'm pretty sure it was that or a large number. But you know, it's a huge amount of organisation, and that's not individual users, that's companies and organisations. So 1,500 are joining Office 365 each and every week. So it's going to be big. It's going to be very, very big, and a lot bigger than BPOS, its predecessor. We're going to move on to the demonstration now as well, so you can see the good bits. So we're going to concentrate on, well, Chris will be giving the demonstrations and concentrating on 3 bits, which is content migration and metadata, backup and restore, and security and permissions. So what I'll do is I'll just switch over to Chris and make Chris the presenter. Chris, you there? Chris?
Dave?
Yes, you're on. Okay. And I introduce you as Chris K. If you'd like to tell people your surname, because I can't say it, I'm afraid.
Sure.
Very low volume on the mic, Chris.
Can you hear me?
Barely. I'm sorry, everyone. We obviously didn't sacrifice that chicken today to the demo gods. Let me just sort that out.
Hello?
Hi, that's much better.
Better?
Oh, much. Everyone can hear you now, I'm sure. Thank you.
Okay. I apologize for that.
No problem.
So, like Dave was saying, today we're going to take a look at the a couple of the MetaVis products that you can use to help administer, get your content into Office 365, as well as backup and restore. So, different products for different requirements or different aspects of an Office 365 type environment. We'll start with migrating content into it. So you have this new Office 365 environment. It's empty. You have content that exists on your file shares, your network drives, old legacy SharePoints, Mosses, on-premise 2010s. Maybe you have an old BPOS that hasn't been upgraded yet by Microsoft. How do you get your content into Office 365 so you can get your users in there and they can get back to business? So what Migrator does is it allows you to do that. It'll allow you to do it in bulk, so you can move stuff. You can move sites one-to-one. I can grab an entire site collection, or I can grab an entire site and move that into Office 365. Or you can go more granular or fine-grained, and you can move an individual list or multiple lists. Or you can drill into a specific list or library and move it on the item level. So you don't have to move everything as is. You can reorganize, reclassify your content as you move it into your new Office 365 environment. To begin, what you want to do is you want to first connect to your site. Again, the tool does everything via remote web services, so regardless if it's on-premise or an Office 365 environment, you're going to take the URL from your browser and you're just going to pop that into the tool. So you'll just copy it from your browser, you'll paste it in, you'll click Finish, the tool will connect, and it'll give you a nice visual representation over here of all of the content you have in your site. So any of your lists or libraries in the root of your site, if you have any subsites, you'll see those as well, and you can drill down as far as you need to go to get to the content you need to access or to migrate. And of course, the same connection process is similar for on-premise Mosses, 2003 WSSs, or your 2010s or BPOS type environments. And when you get to actually copying content, again, decide what you want to copy. If you want to do a one-for-one big bang type approach and move an entire site or site collection, you can do that. You can just right-click on the object you want to copy, and you'll choose Copy. You'll go to the location where you want to move it to, and then you'll just do a simple right-click paste. You can also drag and drop. It's an Explorer-esque type of view, so it's pretty familiar. Users are pretty used to seeing this type of a file organization, so you can also drag and drop from source to target as well. However you decide to initiate the migration, once you start up and you authenticate, it'll ask you, now the tool will ask you, what do you want to do with this object? In this case, it's a site. So you have a couple of options about how you want the tool to handle your site. You can move it into an existing site, which will essentially merge your source into your Office 365 environment. So if you've pre-created a site collection in 365 and you want to move your source collection into it, you would select this first option, which would merge those in. The second option is you could create it as a new subsite. So if you're moving a subsite from your source and you want to create it as a new subsite in your target in Office 365, that option is available as well. Promote to new site collection isn't currently available for 365 just because there is no way for us to do that remotely. You need central admin access to be able to create that initial site collection. So if Microsoft does provide the ability to do that remotely, then this will at some point be available as an option when moving into Office 365. Once you tell the tool how you want to move the site, now you'll get into the fine details of each of the objects within the site and how you want the tool to handle those. You have the site name and site title. If you need to change those or update those, you can do this now. Site copy options, these will be specific to the site in general. So you can choose to move your content types, your subsites, your permissions, your groups. Web parts, these will be primarily your home page web parts. And then if you have any features enabled that you also would like to have enabled in your new target sites, you can do those as well. So the typical example is a team site with publishing. What it will do is the tool will create the team site and then activate the publishing feature immediately afterwards, so that if you have a pages library or you use your pages library, the content will already know where to go inside of that library. And you also have master page gallery if you have custom master pages, those kind of things contained within your source gallery you can move. Now specific to lists and libraries themselves, you have the options of copying the list. So if you want to copy the list or no lists, maybe you just want to move the site itself, you can do that. Copy content, which you'll most likely want to do. Content permissions is specific item level permissioning. So if you do have that on your source configured and you want to preserve that inside of your new target Office 365 site, you can choose that as well. And there's a couple options for versioning as well. So by default, the tool will preserve all of the versions. You can choose to restrict that and say, for example, only give me the latest 3, and this will be 3 major, 3 minor if you have major minor configured. Or you could choose to not copy any versions, so just uncheck that option, and it'll move just the latest of that item. You also have some options for list permissions, views, custom document templates, workflows. This is specifically referring to SharePoint Designer workflows, info path forms, and recently we added the ability to copy out-of-the-box workflows as well. So all of these options here would be specific to the lists and libraries in general within your site. Some advanced options is some filtering if you need to filter, so you don't want to move everything within the site. You want to just move certain objects or items that have been created or modified before or after a certain date, or you want to restrict it based on size. So I don't want to move anything greater than 10 megs or 50 megs up into my cloud environment. You can do those kind of filtering on the site level as well. Remapping of the users, this is going to be particularly useful if you don't have ADFS set up, so you're moving from an on-premise AD type account, domain/account ID, to the Office 365 where you might have an email login. What this will allow the tool to know is that the source account equals this target account in your environment. So when it comes and sees the source account based on what's in the file, it'll swap it or replace it with what's specified in that target field as well. So this will help preserve your permissioning as well as your core properties, your created and modified by values. So the tool does preserve your created at, modified at, and created at and modified by values as well in Office 365. You can also remap site and list templates if you have custom site or list templates in your source and you want to move to more of an out-of-the-box team site, document library, custom list type environment. This option will provide the ability for the tool to know that if it's this custom list ID created as this out-of-the-box team site or this out-of-the-box document library. So if you want to leave behind some of your customizations and you just want to move to a vanilla or out-of-the-box team site or blank site, publishing site, those kind of things in Office 365, this option will help you accomplish that goal. And finally, for the site options, you have look and feel. So if you have specific settings enabled in your source site, for example, you have custom title or description, some navigation customizations, your tree views, your site themes, those kind of things. The tool will attempt to set these values as well when it creates that target site for you.
Just real quick, Chris, just to point out as well, people might notice under in the bottom left-hand corner under connections you can see Outlook and Google, and also some local drives. They could be network drives. But just to say, you can migrate public folder content from Outlook and emails, and also stuff like calendars, for instance, or contacts lists, which you can do out of the box. And Google as well, if you've got Google Docs and you want to move those Google Docs to SharePoint, which is a much better idea, you can certainly use MetaVis. MetaVis has a tool to do that, Google Migrator, and obviously from the file system as well. Sorry to interrupt, Chris. Please carry on.
No, that's a great point. And I can expand on those briefly when we get to the item level copy, because the item level copy from legacy SharePoint into Office 365, it's going to be similar functionality as if it was a file share, or as Dave mentioned, public folder content or Google App content as well. So after you've decided on all the options you want the tool to perform for your site migration, you can click Next. You'll get a final little summary screen here, just letting you know this is your source, you're moving it to this location, you've chosen to create it as a subsite with this specific set of options here. You'll also see throughout the tool we have a Generate Script button. This will allow the tool to execute the migration via command line script. You can use it in a PowerShell script or a batch file. So it doesn't have to be GUI-based migrations. You can do it command line script as well. And we recently added the ability to also upload these scripts into Task Scheduler. So you could queue up a bunch of jobs and have Task Scheduler fire off these migrations Friday at 6 p.m. once business is closed for the week, and just have all your migrations run over the weekend. Okay. If you click Finish now, the job will start. For the sake of time, I won't copy my entire site, but if you click Finish, the job will start. It'll perform your migration based on those options you specified. A list copy you can do as well, so if you have specific lists that you need to copy, you can multi-select your lists and do that. But essentially, the process is going to be very similar. You'll see the ability to rename the list. If the tool detects a list with the same name in your target environment, for instance, shared documents is in your source, it's also in your target, it will merge the two together. So it'll merge your source shared documents into your target shared documents. If you do not want that to happen, you can just as easily rename your list here. Or if you do want it to merge, obviously just leave it as is and the tool will do that. List copy options here are going to be very similar to what we just stepped through, so I won't go through each one. But you have your copy content types. Again, this is on a list level, so if you have content types specific to this list, the tool will attempt to assign those towards the list as well when it gets up to your Office 365 site. content, versioning, permissions, all of this stuff is very similar. Also, what we didn't see on the first screen, but what is available on a site level as well, is incremental copy. So you don't necessarily have to force a migration in an X amount of time. So if you start the migration on Friday and it doesn't complete by Monday morning, say it completes on Tuesday, that's fine. You can go back, do an incremental migration, and say, just give me the changes that have occurred in the past 4 or 5 days. So you don't have to then kill your target site, remigrate again. Just run an incremental. It'll pull over just the content that's been created or modified in those past 4 or 5 days or week, and it'll make it much smoother, much quicker migration operation, so that your source and target are more in sync, so that when you're ready to cut them over, your users to 365, the content will be there for them.
Just real quick, Chris, there's actually a pertinent question about what you're doing now. What about document version history? Is that maintained? If yes, can it be specified in a filter to limit the number of versions that are brought over?
Right, yes. Filtering is going to be available here. If you want it by default, the tool will have it copy versions, include all versions. You can do include most recent versions, so if you want to move just the latest 5, you can do that. So anything, less than that 5th version, major or minor, it won't include. Or you can say I don't want any versions. But by default, the tool will preserve all and give you an easy option to limit it.
Great, thanks, Chris.
Sure. And again, advanced options are similar. What's unique about an advanced options filter on a list level is it allows you to filter based on any of the fields that are associated to that list. So if you have a custom field or you have an out-of-the-box field, you can filter on that. So if you want to do just content type equal to document, so I only want to move the objects where the content type is equal to document, the tool will move that and just skip everything else. So another way that you don't have to move everything, you can clean up your content as you move it across. So you don't want to move over all of your stuff, just the important stuff. So the filtering could help you there as well. Okay, and the remap users and site and list template, the same functionality if it was on a site or a list. And generate script, again, same thing, except this time it's going to be a copy script command, but the functionality to execute via command line is there, and to use Windows Task Scheduler in conjunction with the script is there as well. Okay. You can also, like we mentioned earlier, you can do an item level copy. So if you want to be even more specific, you can go into any list or library within the tool that you have access to. Again, the tool itself respects all SharePoint permissioning. So if you do not have access to an item, a site, a subsite, a list, or a document itself, the tool will not give you access to that object either. So assuming you have permission, you can go into any list or library and you can see the actual content, including folder structure if you have it. And allows you to take action on that specific object. So I could select just the content of this library, or I can select just a few of these documents, and I can perform the same operation. I can do a copy-paste or a drag-and-drop and move just these 3 Word documents from one library to another, on-premise or Office 365, regardless of the source target configuration. You'll get another similar looking interface that will step you through, but this time it'll allow you to remap your metadata. So the content types, it might have been a document on your source, but now that you're in the target, you have these great new custom document types you've created. So you'll see those available here. Now again, these are what's available in the target location. So I have the default document and I have 2 custom types. So if I choose either of the custom types, the fields available will be updated to show you what's currently a part of that type. If I switch to my government contract, you'll see now I have government contract specific columns. So it will show you only those columns that you can map to that are a part of that content type. If there's overlap, one column is a part of multiple, then it'll obviously show you that as well. So once you've selected your content types that you're going to migrate this content into, or make it become a part of that type, you can now move on to the fields and how you want to assign values to these fields. The tool offers you, again, a few different ways to handle this. You can, if you choose this left-facing arrow here, you can manually enter a value. So if it's a single line of text, you can type in a value just as you would through SharePoint. If it is a date field, for example, it'll pull up a date picker here, and you can choose a date to assign it a value. The tool also is fully compatible with managed metadata. So if you do have a managed metadata field, it's linked to a specific term set, the tool will show you that term set and allow you to select a value based on what is currently available through SharePoint. Okay. Other options is you can remap values from your source. So if you choose the down-facing arrow, this will bring up another small interface here which will show you all the available columns in your source location, your source library, or your source list, and allow you to map those to your target. So this is my target government contractor. Maybe I want to do document created by. So I'll do my document created by, and I'll map it to my government contractor, or my contract author. I can map there. So it'll copy the value from my source contract author and populate it into my target government contractor field.
I wasn't sure if you're going to mention it, Chris, but I'll just jump in quick. If you're migrating content from a file system as well, you can actually use folder values within the folder structure of your computer for metadata as well if you wish to. And also, in a moment, you'll see you can remove those pesky folders as well. But over to you.
Sure. Thanks. Yes, you can also, if you do have a folder structure here, my example doesn't have any, but if you did have a folder structure either inside of your SharePoint lists or from a file share, you can map folder names into SharePoint columns. So some people use folder shares as pseudo metadata within their networks. You can now map those values, the folder names, into real metadata columns inside of SharePoint. So it does give you a way to preserve those values while moving into the SharePoint ecosystem or the taxonomy. Okay. After you're happy with your mapping selections, you click Next. You'll have a few more quick advanced options here. Again, versioning, you can choose to preserve it or not, depending on how you're moving your content. Incremental, again, if you're going to perform an incremental. And here's the option that Dave mentioned earlier, is a remove folder structure. So this option will leave behind your folder structure and just move the content into your target location. So if you're trying to move your users away from a folder structure and into custom views within SharePoint, this will be a quick and easy way. It might be eye-opening or jarring for them, but it'll get all their content into SharePoint.
Or frightening, some would say, but it's a good way to go.
Yes, it could be frightening, but it will be a quick way to get them over to a view-typed mindset. You can also do item-level permissioning, again, filtering and remap users. The generate script for item-level copy is a little different than everything else, as in each item you copy is its own script or its own migration. So this gives you fine-grained control over the object itself, where you want to move it from to, what metadata you want to map, what operations you want to perform. So you can do that on a very fine level when it's an item-level copy. And again, we'll upload into Windows Task Scheduler if you want to do a scheduled migration.
Just a quick one again, sorry Chris. When you remove folders, I don't know the answer to this one, how does it handle files with the same name?
Files with the same, yeah, it's an interesting question. The first one that it attempts to upload will upload successfully. The ones after that will say file already exists.
Oh, right.
It'll say file already exists, so you'll you'll have that error in the logs.
Oh, then you can see.
Right, so you can see what you have.
Sure.
If you do the upload via CSV file, that will show you those kind of situations where you might have files with the same name. And then using that CSV file, you can modify however you need it. So if you want to just change the name, or you want to version it, or put some kind of unique ID at the end, you can do that via CSV file and then perform the migration or perform the upload using that CSV file.
Great answer, thank you.
Sure. Okay. After you've done whatever you need to do, you'll click Finish. The tool will begin the migration. You'll see here the Run in Background button. The tool itself is multi-threaded, so you can run parallel jobs or parallel migrations. You click Run in Background, and then you can go and continue on with whatever else you need to do. And your jobs will all be running here. Once they complete, which this should do momentarily, you'll then have the summary report. So you will be notified when the job, any background job, is completed. For instance, this one here. You'll see process successfully, hopefully, everything copied correctly. If not, you'll see some warning messages. And just a quick summary of what the log looks like. It'll give you your source and target here, as well as some statistics, the size, the start time, those kind of things, and also some basic statistics here if you need to see how long your content takes to upload, download, how long the queries are taking. Those kind of operations are logged in our statistics as well. And these can be saved out for later if you need to save them for historical, or you just need to save them for, to report back to your manager or your IT folks. Okay. Just briefly, that's our SharePoint. So SharePoint sites, list, item level copy. What Dave was saying, with file shares, public folders, Google Apps, it's going to be similar operation as your drag and drop with an item level copy. You'll have the similar mapping wizard where you can assign metadata. It'll read your Office metadata, it'll read your NTFS metadata. Those kind of things can also be mapped into SharePoint columns, as well as your Outlook or public folders. So if you want to move an entire public folder calendar into SharePoint, you can. The tool will build out that calendar and then create all of your events, including their recurrence, within that calendar. You can do it with tasks as well. And your Google Apps, again, if you have content in Google Apps that you need to move into SharePoint, this tool can do it as well. Okay, so that's the migration piece. That'll get your content into your new Office 365 environment. The question next becomes, how do I manage it from a security perspective? I need to set up permissions, or I brought over everything when I migrated my content in, but the permission structure was outdated, or you have lots of different broken inheritances, or you just need to get a visual of what your structure security-wise looks like in your Office 365 environment. So you'll have everything over here in the navigator, so you can select the object you want to look at. You can see your different objects, your permission levels, your groups, if you have custom or out-of-the-box permission levels. All of these will be shown visually to you, so that I just have the default ones here. And you can also perform actions on these. So throughout the tool, you'll notice that right-click really is your friend. So anytime you need to see something in more detail, or you want to perform an action or an operation against that, you can right-click on it. You can do a copy. You can do an edit. So if you want to modify the default design permission level, you'll have all the options you would typically see inside of SharePoint available here within this Security Manager interface. You can also do grant or create additional permissions or permission levels, or create groups. And these can be done in bulk as well. So if you have multiple sites or multiple site collections, you can just multi-select those, create a permission, and you'll do it once, and the tool will create it across all of those different selected objects. So it doesn't have to be a one-off kind of operation. You can do these security level permissioning and analysis across multiple SharePoint instances. Another usable or requested, I should say, functionality from some of our other users was the ability to transfer or clone permissions. So the thinking behind this was, if someone in your organization quits or retires or was terminated, how do you transition their permissions to their replacement? Or someone retired, Now I'm bringing in someone new. How do I give them their permissions, the same level of permissions that they're replacing that person with? So what this will do is it will crawl your entire site based on this URL. You can put in here your source user. So user A left the company. User B came in and replaced user A. And you want to go and you want to crawl your subsites, your lists, your item level permissioning. And whenever the tool sees user A, it'll create user B with that same permission. And optionally, it'll remove source the user A as well. So it can either clone what you have, or it can transfer from A to B if you choose to remove the source. And you can also do it on a mass scale as well. So if you've acquired a company and their users are coming over into your domain and you want to quickly switch them over from their old domain account to their new, or you're moving in your ADFS accounts, this will do the same operation in mass. So you can do many original source users to new target users in mass, one operation across your entire site or site collection. And you can also do remove permissions as well. So if you need to quickly remove someone's permission from SharePoint, this will do that. It won't transfer or clone it, it'll just remove it from everywhere the tool finds it as it crawls through your site. Some of the security analysis pieces of the manager product is permissions given to a specific user or group. So if you want to see who has access to something, you can put in their SharePoint user or the group, and it'll crawl the site again. All of this is in real time. So it'll crawl your site in real time, and it will show you everything that this person has access to. And it'll also tell you, it'll show you how they have access. So if they have access because they're in the owners group, then it'll show you that. If they're giving direct permission to SharePoint, it'll show you that as well. Let me just show you. I'll just use my account. Assuming that you have a valid account, it'll go out and show you all this. It'll also, if you have access to Active Directory, it'll also go and show you the Active Directory groups. So if I have access to SharePoint via an AD group, it'll show me that and allow me to see inside of that Active Directory group to see the group membership. Again, you'll need to provide access to Active Directory to make sure that you have permissions to do that. But if you do, then it will show you that as well. So I have permissions to all of these objects because most of them are inherited. You can also drill in if you have item level permissions that you need to see as well. Okay. Conversely, you can see users with permissions to a specific object. So if you wanted to see this, now it'll crawl this, whatever this selected object is, site, list, item. It'll ask me to authenticate against Active Directory. And it'll show you who has access to this object. So you can see that this user has direct permission through Active Directory. So he's in our AD group, domain users. He's also inside of our dev owners because domain users is a dev owner member. And he's also inside of this group as well because he's a domain user. So it does show you how that person has access or how that group has access as well. Could be useful if you need to track down where that person was granted permissions to SharePoint. You also have orphaned users, so if you have users that have been disabled or deleted in your Active Directory, this will show you those as well. Again, if you have ADFS configured for your Office 365 environment, it'll show you those users, the list of users that have been deleted or disabled. And each of our reports inside of our security analysis module can be saved as CSV files as well. So if you need to save those out and do any kind of filtering, you can just open up that CSV file inside of Excel or some other text reader, and you can use their filtering to show if, for example, you only want to see people who have full control. Just apply the filter that way, and it'll show you those group of users who have full control. And you can also do permission inheritance. So this is useful, again, if you know there has been unique permissionings, or you had an admin who went out and went a little crazy and was breaking permission on different sites, different lists, even item level permissioning. The tool will quickly go out and show you where all those permissions have been broken, where they're unique, and allow you to take action on those. So I could select all of these broken ones and just simply right-click and do inherit permissions. And the tool will then reestablish permission inheritance on these selected objects. You can also go inside of it. If you see unique item level permissioning, you'll see, again, permission broken here, and then you can see the objects that way. You can also right-click on the object itself and show permissions, and now you can see, this one doesn't have any permissions, but you can see who has access to that uniquely permissioned object. And if you have access to the group, you can see the membership as well. So it does allow you to not only visually see it, allows you to take action if you want to inherit, or conversely you want to break. And then you can even just inspect it if you want as well. So going inside of it and showing you everyone who has access to it, including domain groups. Okay. And we also have a piece of our tools that you'll see in Migrate as well as Security Manager is Live Compare. This will essentially allow you to select two different objects, two sites, two lists, two libraries, and compare the relationship of these two selected objects. So if you want to see what's different about the two, so if you have different permission levels between your two sites, this will show you all of the different permission levels. So everything over here exists only in this site, does not exist here, so I could select one or multi different permission levels and just copy those left to right, or copy those right to left, left to right, right to left, depending on which site has it or which list or library has that. Okay.
That's good, Chris.
Okay, so moving over to backup, so now that you've got your content in there, you've got your security set up, the question is now, how do you have a good, reliable backup in case something happens? If someone accidentally deletes an entire library or a list or an entire site, you can put in a ticket to Microsoft, hope that they respond in a relatively short time, and get your content back for you. What this backup tool allows you, the user, to do, the site admin, the IT director, is to have a local copy of your SharePoint content on your network. So within your file share, you will have the content of your SharePoint site. You can put this on your local drive, the network drive, maybe you have a SAN system set in place, or cheaper offsite storage. This will house all of your content from SharePoint inside of your local controlled network. So if the cloud goes down, your internet goes down, you will still have access to all of your content. Okay. So the way to set it up is, again, you've already connected through your navigator, so you'll see over here, and you just simply select Create a Backup. It'll ask you for a few parameters, a project name, which you will see over here in your backup navigator. You put in your project name, so this will be my Office 365 site. This is the URL I'm going to back up. It'll ask you where you want to save your content to, so where do you want to download this within your network. And then it'll ask you some quick options here. Do you want to include subsites? Do you want to include document versions as well? Do you want to delete it from the source? If you're archiving a site, so you just want it down to your system and then just remove it from SharePoint, you can do that, and you can also apply filters as well. And again, this is all script-based as well. So the nice thing about the backup with the scripts is that it does allow you to upload them into Task Scheduler, so you can have a job that's scheduled to back up every Friday or every night at midnight. You can have that. You don't need to worry about your backup. Schedule it. The tool will execute this backup plan when you see fit, whenever you've triggered it or however you decided to trigger this job. And you can be assured that when you come in the next morning or you come in Monday morning, you will have a backup there in case anything happens. So once you assign all of your parameters, you click Finish. the tool will go out and back up. It'll add it to the navigator here, and it'll give you a breakdown of each of the backups it has performed. So I initially created my full backup on May 8th, and you'll see here is the site that it backed up. So this was my HR management site. These are all the lists and libraries that were backed up. If you double click on any one of those, you'll see the actual content of that list or that library within the interface. So here's my healthcare benefits. If you come back over to my archive, you'll see the content actually does exist within your file share. It is not proprietary formatted. It is a document in Excel and PDF. You can open these up and view them. There is no special functionality or encryption or proprietary-based coding. These are Word documents. If they were versioned, you would see the versions here as well.
Just real quick, Carla Lowe asked a question. If you back up to a local copy and the web is down and you revert to the local copy, can you then do an incremental migration to load the new content up, or the amended content up to your Office 365 site? I mean, the answer to that is, of course, yes, but Chris?
Yes. The answer is yes. So if you modified the file on your local file share, when you come back into the tool and you do a right-click restore, it will pull that file from your file share and upload it back to that original location with the metadata that has been defined in that CSV file.
Yeah, it's honestly the one of the, well, as far as I'm aware, the only backup of 365 proper backup and restore, but very, very easy to use. We've got one other question here. One has access to the contents on local network drives and also SharePoint environment Office 365. The content are edited in both places. Won't there be a version problem when you synchronize it? Yes, there would be a problem. Do you know how that's handled, Chris, or how that could be handled?
Sure. Yeah. We're talking about incremental, right?
Yeah, that's very true. So yes, you could do an incremental copy and then, yeah.
Right. Right. An incremental copy will do it from source to target based on the filter you would apply. So if you said, give me anything modified greater than April 1st, anything in your source that was modified greater than April 1st will move to your target, and that will become that target object. So you don't want to be modifying both source and target simultaneously. This incremental copy is to allow your users to continue working in the source while you prepare the target environment. And then once they're ready, you cut them off the source, you do an incremental, and now they continue working the target.
Yep, very true. Just one other question as well about migration, actually. Does this tool migrate workflows as well? I know the option's there, but if you want to explain, Chris?
Yes. It currently supports SharePoint Designer-based workflows as well as out-of-the-box workflows. Both of those are available under the List Copy Options section.
Cool.
You can check them or uncheck them where appropriate.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay. So just to touch back on the restore piece, so now that you have it all backed up, to create an incremental copy, you can just select it again, do an update. It'll ask you how you want to incrementally update these from the last update, from the last full update. Again, you can script it, so you can do an incremental Monday through Friday. You can do a full backup on Saturday and have those running in sync with each other. And then it'll show you here in the navigator, the backup navigator, each of these full or incremental backups. So if you ever need to go back to a specific incremental, you can, or you can just restore from a full backup. And the restore process is very straightforward and very easy. We saw with an item, you can just do a right-click restore. It doesn't ask you any options. It just restores that file with its metadata back to its original location. For an item restore, a list or a site restore, you can do the same thing. So if someone accidentally deleted this healthcare benefits library, I can just do a restore. It'll pull up this wizard again, so you have the ability to rename it. If you don't want to restore it exactly where it is, you want to rename it, you can do that. And then you have your options for versioning, incremental, you can do that, and your advanced options. But this will essentially put that library back with its content the way it was when the backup was taken. Similar process with the site too. Right-click on your site, you do a restore, and you'll get the wizard again asking you which options you want to do, content types, subsites, those type of things. Once you click finish, then it will go and restore that site based on those options. Okay, and then also just real quickly, if you're doing daily incrementals or weekly fulls, eventually you're going to get pretty full here in the navigator. You can delete anything you don't want. So if you want to just go in and say this backup is from January, I don't need that anymore, you can delete it. Alternatively, you can export and import these. So if you have archived sites that you no longer need to have the ability to back up or restore kind of on a demand basis, you can export these archives. It'll essentially zip it up for you. You can do a password protection. You can break it into multi-volume archives, and then move it into a cheaper off-storage location, or just buy an external hard drive and move it to those. And then at any time, if you need to recover those at a later date, you can just re-import them back into the tool based on where the file location is, and it'll just load itself back in like this. And then you can just drill down and grab that item you need, and then just restore it. So it does give you a way also to archive outside of this interface as well.
Really good, thank you, Chris. How's the demo going? Because we only got 9 minutes left.
Yeah, let's. I could go on and on. So let's.
I know.
Let's see if there's any other questions. And
no, we're good. We're good with questions as well. We've managed to do the questions as well. So that's great. So thank you very much. What I'll do is I'll just make myself presenter, just to run through a couple of last slides and finish off. Can you see my screen, Chris?
I do.
Perfect. Good. So, just really quickly. Now, let's get back where we were. It's always good. Okay, backup strategies. I think as you've seen, I mean, MetaVis backup is just perfect, and obviously, as Chris said, it works on 365, obviously, and also on premise as well. So there's lots of options. I mean, a lot of people just rely for their backup strategy on the bin, which isn't exactly a great way to maintain your business. So please don't do that. But these are some of the options. I'll go very quickly for a couple. I mean, basically, your options for Microsoft's support for lost content or deleted items is limited, as you would expect. I mean, 365 is huge and getting bigger, so you wouldn't expect them to be able to really find that all-important mission-critical document that someone deleted. So please consider your options as well with backup. And what questions to ask, in my opinion, before buying an Office 365 tool. Is it agentless? What do I have to install on my SharePoint server? So, do you have to install anything on if you're migrating from on-premise to 365, do you have to install anything on your SharePoint server to make it work? That's not a great option. Will it work with the next version of SharePoint out of the box? I can't tell you, but, we'll wait and see. I'm sure it'll be a good answer. Can you use it with other Office 365 and other hosted SharePoint providers, FP Web, Rackspace, etc.? And also, of course, does it support, as you've seen, sites, lists, libraries, etc.? I mean, the list is endless workflows, with MetaVis. So always ask those questions. It's very important. We handle the questions, so thank you for those. I would strongly recommend you download a trial of MetaVis for Office 365. That's available from www.metavistech.com/try. And our next webinar is on June the 6th, and it's the Essentials of SharePoint Disaster Recovery Planning with Sean McDonough. So I'll just check to see if there's any other questions. I think we're good. Has anyone got any questions they wish to ask? Okay, here we go. I have an intranet site in-house. Can I use this tool to migrate that? Yes, you certainly can. That's not a problem. Hang on, let me just expand this box. There's some more piling in now. Does the migrator have the security bits? You actually buy that as a separate product, so Security Manager is sold separately.
It can copy your permissions as well within Migrator.
Yeah, but I think the actual question is, does the migrator have the security bits? So yeah, it could be either way. I see. So yes, it can copy permissions, but the Security Manager is a separate product. I hope that answers all the questions, Carla. Do you normally need a general administrator for permissions, etc.? Basically, it's security driven. So as long as the person has access to the SharePoint site, then they can do that. I think that's what you mean.
Right, correct. The minimum the tool requires is designer for that site, but obviously you might run into some permissioning issues if you only have designer. So most people either have site owner or site collection admin.
Yeah. Here's a good one for you, Chris. Can you select multiple lists libraries by drawing a rectangle like in folders in local window? Oh, just dragging around. No, but you can highlight. You can draw. You can really?
Oh,
I've not seen that.
I'm sorry. Yes, you can control click. Sorry.
Yes, control click.
Or
you can't
shift
actually drag around it. That'd be really great. We should mention that to someone. But yeah, you can. Yeah, you can select multiple ones or control click.
Yeah.
Or one has to hit control key. Yeah, I think that was the answer. So is there any other questions before we sign off for the evening? All gone quiet. So, I need to forward this webinar to my developer. Will it be available? Yes, it will. Hopefully by the end, by Friday, it'll be up on a couple of blogs on the internet. And obviously, if you follow me or MetaVis on Twitter, then you'll be able to get it. A couple of people say thank you. Thank you, great presentation. Thank you very much for saying thank you. And on that, I think we'll call it an evening, or an afternoon in some people's case. So thank you very much indeed. And as I say, we'll see you on the next one. So thank you all. And thank you, Chris. It was awesome. Great.
Thank you, guys. Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye now.